world has long been fascinated, even terrified, by the number 666. For centuries, people have associated it with fear, evil, and destruction. But the truth is, fear comes from ignorance, and ignorance is the enemy of understanding. When you do not understand something, you become a victim of superstition, manipulation, and deception. The true meaning of 666 is not about horror movies or dark symbols. It is a revelation of something much deeper, something that has shaped the course of human history. The number 666 represents the power and limitations of man. It is not a number to fear, but a number to understand. Man was created on the sixth day, which signifies that 6 is the number of humanity. 3 sixes, that is man trying to replace divine authority with human wisdom, human systems, and human control. It is mankind attempting to rule without the guidance of divine principles. It is the ultimate rebellion. The belief that man can be his own source, his own God, his own ruler. Every time humanity builds a system without divine wisdom, it creates corruption, oppression, and failure. Look at history. Every time a government, an economy, or civilization rises without acknowledging divine truth, it eventually collapses. Why? Because 666 is the mark of human limitation. No matter how powerful man thinks he is, no matter how advanced technology becomes, if man removes the divine blueprint, failure is inevitable. When greed replaces wisdom, when control replaces freedom, and when human ambition replaces divine order, the result is chaos, deception. But the good news is, you do not have to live under the system of 666. You do not have to be controlled by fear, manipulation, or false power. You were created to operate in a higher dimension, not as a victim of man-made systems, but as a visionary, a leader, and a person of purpose. Those who understand the truth will never bow to deception. Those who know their identity will never be enslaved by the systems of the world. Do not live in fear, live in wisdom. Do not submit to ignorance, seek understanding. Because when you walk in truth, no number, no system, and no deception can control your destiny. The number 666 has been feared and misunderstood for generations. But fear is the result of ignorance. The truth is, 666 is not a symbol of some mystical terror. It is a representation of human limitation. The number 6 in divine order is the number of man, because man was created on the sixth day. It signifies human ability, human strength, and human systems. But when that number is repeated 3 times, it represents man attempting to establish himself as the ultimate authority, without divine wisdom, without divine order, and without divine principle. Throughout history, we have seen mankind elevate his own knowledge above divine instruction, placing faith in human intellect, government, and economic systems. Empires rise and fall because they are built on the foundation of human limitation rather than divine truth. The moment man believes he is self-sufficient, he begins to create systems that eventually crumble under the weight of greed, corruption, and instability. The number 666 is not about a supernatural force controlling your destiny. It is about the predictable failure of any system built solely on human strength. Look at the patterns in history. Every kingdom, every civilization, every empire that removed divine wisdom and relied only on human ability collapsed. The Roman Empire, the great dynasties, financial empires, they all stood in their time as symbols of human power, but they could not last. Why? Because humanity alone is limited. Without divine principles, power turns into oppression, wealth turns into greed, and knowledge turns into deception. The number 666 is not meant to scare you, it is meant to warn you. It reveals the flaws of any system that is rooted in human pride rather than divine wisdom. You were never meant to live under the limitations of 666. You were designed to operate in a higher dimension, one where wisdom, vision, and divine purpose lead you beyond the failures of man-made systems. If you understand this truth, you will never be trapped by the fear of numbers, the fear of governments, or the fear of economic collapse. You will rise above limitations and walk in a power that no human system can ever give you. From the beginning of time, humanity has struggled with the desire to be independent of divine authority. The number 666 is a symbol of this rebellion, a representation of mankind's attempt to govern himself without acknowledging the source of true wisdom. Every great failure in history, every collapse of civilizations, every downfall of leaders has been rooted in this one mistake: man believing he can replace divine order with his own systems. Look at the story of the Tower of Babel. Humanity came together with one goal: to build a structure that would reach the heavens, to make a name for themselves, to establish their own authority. But what happened? Their plans failed, their unity was shattered, and their vision crumbled. Why? Because they were trying to replace divine order with human ambition. That is the essence of 666. It is not about a mysterious force controlling the world. It is about the predictable failure of any system built on human pride instead of divine wisdom. When man rejects divine principles in favor of his own understanding, he creates systems that enslave instead of empower. Governments become corrupt, economies become unstable, and institutions collapse under the weight of greed and deception. Throughout history, nations have risen to power with great ambition, but those that removed the foundation of truth eventually fell. Every time humanity tries to rule without the principles of wisdom, justice, and righteousness, the result is always the same: confusion, destruction, and failure. But those who understand this truth are not shaken by the failures of the world systems. They do not place their trust in human governments, economic policies, or temporary success. Instead, they align themselves with principles that transcend human limitations. The moment you recognize that rebellion against divine order leads to failure, you begin to live differently. You no longer fear the rise and fall of empires, the instability of markets, or the corruption of leadership. You operate with a different mindset, a different vision, a different level of wisdom. You become unshakable because you are not building your life on the limitations of 666, but on the foundation of truth that never fails. The number 666 represents the ultimate limitation of man: his complete reliance on his own intellect, power, and systems without acknowledging the higher wisdom that governs all things. It is a symbol of the futility of human strength when it is disconnected from divine purpose. Throughout history, every empire, every ruler, and every system that has placed itself above divine order has crumbled under the weight of its own arrogance. The pattern is clear. Whenever man tries to replace divine principles with his own wisdom, failure is inevitable. Think about the greatest minds the world has ever seen: scientists, philosophers, strategists, and leaders who have shaped history. Many of them built brilliant systems, powerful nations, and influential ideologies. But the moment they removed the foundation of eternal truth, their ideas became unstable. The most advanced civilizations of the past are now ruins. Their mighty leaders long forgotten. Why? Because human wisdom, no matter how advanced, is limited. When you build your life on principles rooted in temporary success, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Wealth, status, and achievements gained through human effort alone are like sand castles by the shore, impressive for a moment, but washed away when the tide rises. This is why those who chase success without understanding true wisdom often find themselves trapped in a cycle of frustration. They work harder, strive longer, accumulate more, yet remain empty. They are chasing after something that cannot satisfy because what they are building is rooted in the limitations of human effort. But there is a greater way. When you understand that human wisdom alone is not enough, you begin to seek something higher. You start operating with a vision that is not limited by what you see, hear, or feel. You align yourself with principles that have stood the test of time. You stop relying on your own understanding and start tapping into the source of true success. And when you do that, you break free from the limitations of 666. You rise above temporary systems, above failing ideologies, above unstable foundations. You step into a level of wisdom that cannot be shaken, a level of success that is not dependent on the ever-changing world around you. The number 666 represents the cycle of human struggle. Man's constant attempt to build, control, and dominate without acknowledging the eternal laws that govern true success. It is the symbol of systems that rise with power and promise, only to collapse under the weight of their own limitations. Look through history and you will see this cycle repeating itself. Civilizations rising to greatness, fueled by ambition, intellect, and human effort alone, only to fall into ruin when they place themselves above divine wisdom. This number reveals the nature of mankind's greatest challenge: self-dependence. It is the mindset that says, I don't need guidance. I can create my own path. I am my own master. It is the deception that convinces people that power, wealth, and influence are enough to secure their future. But if that were true, why do the wealthiest still suffer from anxiety? Why do the most powerful still live in fear? Why do those who have everything the world offers still search for something more? Because man was never designed to thrive on his own. True success is never built in isolation from eternal principle. When a person, a business, or a nation builds without acknowledging the true source of wisdom, they may rise quickly, but their foundation is weak. Their structure may look impressive, but it cannot withstand the storms of time. That is why we have seen the fall of mighty leaders, the collapse of strong economies, and the downfall of systems that once seemed unshakable. No matter how great the structure, if the foundation is faulty, failure is inevitable. This is why understanding the deeper meaning of 666 is crucial. It is not just a number, it is a warning. It is a reminder that no matter how much you accomplish, no matter how much knowledge you gain, no matter how much power you hold, if it is built solely on human effort, it will not last. True greatness comes when you align yourself with principles that are eternal. When you step beyond the temporary and tap into the unshakable wisdom that has guided true success for generations. The number 666 represents the ultimate deception, the illusion of control. It is the belief that mankind can create a perfect system, a flawless government, or an unshakable empire without acknowledging the principles that govern true success. It is the same mindset that led great civilizations to rise in arrogance and fall in disgrace. Every kingdom built on human pride, every empire constructed on selfish ambition has eventually crumbled. Why? Because nothing built on human effort alone can stand the test of time. Look at the world today. Systems are failing. Economies are shaking. Leaders are falling. What seemed strong yesterday is weak today. The reason is simple. Man was never designed to succeed apart from divine principles. When people trust in their own wisdom alone, they build structures that appear powerful on the outside but are fragile at the core. They chase after temporary solutions while ignoring eternal truths. They construct financial empires that collapse overnight, create technological advancements that bring more destruction than progress, and pursue knowledge that leads to confusion instead of clarity. This is why the warning is clear. When man elevates himself above the principles that sustain life, he sets himself on a path to destruction. The greatest deception is to believe that success can be achieved without wisdom, that power can be maintained without character, and that progress can be sustained without purpose. The number 666 is a reminder that systems built on human pride will always reach a breaking point. But those who align themselves with truth, who build on a foundation greater than themselves, will stand firm when everything else falls. The number 666 is not just a symbol, it is a mindset. It represents the way humanity often seeks to replace divine principles with personal ambition. It is the pursuit of power without wisdom, wealth without purpose, and knowledge without truth. It is when people begin to rely on their own strength, their own intellect, and their own understanding, believing that they can build systems that will last forever. But history has already proven that every empire built on human arrogance eventually falls. The greatest deception is believing that success can be achieved apart from the principles that sustain life itself. Consider how the world operates today. There is a constant push to remove the foundation that has held societies together for centuries. Values are being rewritten, truth is being redefined, and morality is being treated as an obstacle rather than a guide. The desire to control, manipulate, and dominate has become the driving force behind politics, business, and even personal relationships. But no matter how much power one accumulates, no matter how much influence one gains, there will always be an emptiness that cannot be filled by human effort alone. That is why so many who appear to have everything are still searching for something. The illusion of 666 is that man can be his own source. It is the deception that external success is a substitute for internal fulfillment. But true success is not measured by what you accumulate. It is measured by the impact you make. It is not about how much you have, but about how much you give. It is not about how high you rise, but how deep your foundation is. Anything built without the right foundation will eventually collapse. But those who understand that success is rooted in something greater than themselves will stand firm when everything else crumbles. The number 666 is a representation of misplaced priorities. When the pursuit of material gain overtakes the pursuit of purpose. It symbolizes the moment when people begin to measure their worth by their possessions rather than their contributions. When they chase after temporary success while neglecting eternal principles. The danger is not in having wealth, power, or influence. The danger is when these things become the center of life. Anything that replaces purpose will eventually become a burden rather than a blessing. Look around and you will see people trapped in a cycle of never-ending ambition, always striving, always competing, but never truly satisfied. They believe that more money, more fame, or more recognition will bring fulfillment, but they soon discover that nothing external can fill an internal void. That is why some of the most successful people in the world still battle with depression, anxiety, and emptiness. They have everything, yet they feel like they have nothing. That is because success without meaning is just an illusion. True fulfillment comes when you align yourself with the purpose for which you were created. You were not designed just to survive, accumulate, and compete. You were designed to influence, impact, and build something that lasts beyond your lifetime. The greatest mistake is to spend your whole life climbing a ladder only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. When purpose is clear, success follows naturally. When priorities are in order, blessings become tools rather than distractions. It is not wrong to pursue success, but success must be pursued with wisdom, with responsibility, and with a commitment to something greater than personal gain. The true danger of 666 is that it represents a mindset that removes purpose and replaces it with selfish ambition. It is a number that signifies the pursuit of power without principle, wealth without wisdom, and success without service. When people live by this mentality, they begin to see others as obstacles instead of opportunities, as competition instead of community. They measure their achievements by how much they can take rather than how much they can give. They become trapped in an endless cycle of striving, never satisfied, always hungry for more, yet never finding true peace. This is why so many people chase the dream of success, but end up in a nightmare of emptiness. They build their lives on things that do not last: money, status, material possessions. And when those things fail to bring fulfillment, they search for more of the same, thinking the answer is in greater accumulation. But what they fail to realize is that no amount of external gain can replace internal purpose. Fulfillment does not come from what you own. It comes from knowing why you were created. When you shift your focus from selfish ambition to divine assignment, everything changes. You begin to understand that success is not just about what you achieve for yourself, but about how you impact the world around you. True success is about using your gifts, your resources, and your influence to serve a higher purpose. It is about leaving a legacy that goes beyond material possessions, a legacy of wisdom, integrity, and transformation. The greatest fulfillment is not in how much you acquire, but in how much you contribute to something greater than yourself. The true meaning of 666 is not just a number. It is a warning against a life driven by greed, power, and self-centered ambition. It is a reminder that when people disconnect from their divine purpose, they become enslaved to a system that values profit over people, success over significance, and power over principle. But you were not created to live that way. You were designed to walk in purpose, to lead with integrity, and to use your influence to uplift and transform lives. Do not chase after things that will fade. Do not build your identity on temporary success, and do not allow yourself to be defined by the world's standards. Instead, pursue wisdom, seek understanding, and align yourself with principles that produce lasting impact. Real success is not about how much you accumulate, but about how much you contribute to something greater than yourself. The key to true fulfillment is not in what you gain, but in who you become. Choose purpose over possession, destiny over deception, and a life of meaning over a life of mere survival. Pursue wisdom, seek understanding, and align yourself with principles that produce lasting impact. Real success is not about how much you accumulate, but about how much you contribute to something greater than yourself. The key to true fulfillment is not in what you gain, but in who you become. Choose purpose over possession, destiny over deception, and a life of meaning over a life of mere survival.